You're watching CoinDesk. This next interview is one of the highlights from Consensus 2025.
My name is Nick Day. I'm CoinDesk Managing Editor for Policy and Regulation. I spoke with Congressman French Hill, the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, yesterday. Unfortunately, he had a vote today, so please enjoy this pre-taped interview. It's a fireside on topical issues. Great. So thank you so much for joining us. We're speaking, of course, on Tuesday, day before Consensus begins. And I'm just making this clear because it seems that anything can change very quickly. So I wanted to establish a timestamp here and now. But Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Great to be with you. Thanks for the invitation. Sorry I can't be with you in person or at the time allotted, but they've called votes here in the House.
So, perfect segue. We're seeing a lot of discussion about both stablecoin legislation as well as the market structure bill that was introduced last week as a discussion draft. Just to begin with, what are you hearing in terms of what's the reception towards all these bills?
Well, first, let me mention the discussion draft that Chairman Stile and I, along with G.T. Thompson and Dusty Johnson, put out for conversation. This is the successor to the FIT 21 bill that we had in the last Congress. We listened to market participants extensively about how FIT 21 operated, how it could be improved. And since the administration changed and we've gotten new leaders at the CFTC and SEC under the Trump administration, we sought additional technical assistance from both the SEC and the CFTC. And this draft reflects all those conversations. So I think it's much more streamlined in approach to FIT 21, which was one of the common critiques, I would say, that we got from our Fit for Purpose bill in the last Congress. But I'm pleased with the draft, and so far the comments have been constructive and helpful.
In terms of kind of the broader politics around this moment, obviously last week we saw the Senate stablecoin bill fail to advance. We saw your counterpart on the Democrat side of the Financial Services Committee, Congresswoman Waters, host her own hearing or roundtable, citing concerns about President Donald Trump's own engagements with crypto. How are you factoring in this, opposition or these concerns as you look toward, advancing the market structure bill or other crypto legislation?
Well, both in the stablecoin legislation authored by Senators Scott Hagerty with partnership with Joe LeBran and Lummis in the Senate, and then the Stile bill here in the House, those bills had extensive feedback and input from Democratic senators in the case of the Hagerty draft, and certainly in the Stile bill that we offered had extensive Democratic feedback in the last Congress and even before. So I believe there's a bipartisan consensus around a dollar-backed stablecoin for payments under U.S. law. I think we'll get there. And I think there's strong bipartisan consensus that we need a market structure bill as well. You have to have both because they're linked together. I don't want to use too trite a cliche of peanut butter and jelly, but these bills work together in the sense that if you have a stable coin, where will you use it? How will it be used as an on-ramp or off-ramp to other digital asset activities? And that's why having both the bills is critical. But despite the politics around the Trump meme coin and crypto investments, that has definitely made our work more complicated. I still argue that behind the scenes, you've got constructive members on both sides of the Capitol and in both political parties working to find consensus.
Just to follow up on that point really quickly, is there anything that the president could do that might make, this progress easier to achieve?
Well, I think we've certainly voiced the concerns that we've heard from members on both sides of the Capitol to the White House. We know this is a priority for the president to lead in digital innovation. We want the United States to truly be a leader in crypto, blockchain, and fintech. And I believe these two bills are very, very important. So I think he understands that importance.
So another of the bills that passed out of committee was the Anti-CBDC Act that I believe was sponsored by Whip Emmer. I was curious for a moment. I have really two questions about it, but first off, where is that bill headed, do you think?
Well, Congressman Emmer reintroduced his bill, took some technical assistance on it. We marked it up in our markup several weeks ago when we marked up the stablecoin legislation. Members don't want a big brother government-driven Fed-based central bank digital currency. There's opposition in both political parties on both sides of the Capitol. And what Whip Emmer's bill simply says is you can't issue a central bank digital currency without an Article 1 authority from the Congress, because we're in charge of money in Article 1. And some might ask, well, why is it necessary when Chairman Powell has testified that that's true? Well, you never know who's going to be the Federal Reserve Chairman, and you never know who's going to be in the White House. And so I think this is a message, a bipartisan, a bicameral message that Congress is in charge, and Congress will determine if we want to have a Fed-based central bank digital currency. In the meantime, my view is we're going to have private sector experimentation in the dollar-backed payment stablecoin arena. Let's see how that's adopted. Let's see how it's used institutionally as well as potentially at retail.
That was indeed going to be my other question, is the testimony of Chair Powell and other Federal Reserve members. On the private stablecoin front, do you see kind of, with the status quo being what it is right now, room for competition under the legislation that you're working towards? Or, is there a risk that these major players might become more entrenched?
Well, we want broad-based competition. The whole secret to blockchain is to step away from corporate-centric networks and to decentralize finance and decentralize competition, both for the creative class that wants to have their own name, image, likeness, business strategy, able to earn a solid return and not have to pass that through or be held hostage by a traditional corporate network that's developed out on the open internet. So that's point one, is that we do expect it to boost competition. And we've designed this legislation to have both bank and non-bank issuers with the same rules of the road as it relates to capital, liquidity, transparency, auditing, oversight, regulatory responsibility, so that we do get innovative competition out in this potentially new dynamic payment rail, which would be making a dollar-backed payment through a stablecoin on a blockchain operating system.
Gotcha. In terms of timeline for the various bills, do you have a sense, do you think the August recess deadline that I believe you and, Mr. David Sachs and other, your fellow colleagues, is that a feasible timeline for all these bills? Where are you looking at this?
Well, in his first digital assets roundtable that the crypto czar David Sachs hosted in the East Room at the White House, and President Trump participated, President Trump asked that a dollar-backed stablecoin authorizing legislation, as well as a good market framework bill, be on his desk before the August recess. I believe that's doable based on the years of work here in the House and the great leadership from Senator Scott, Senator Haggerty, Senator Bozeman, and Senators Lummis and Gillibrand that have really worked over in the Senate to build consensus on these items as well. I think that gives us momentum, and you've seen that momentum here in the first 5 months of the year with both the Senate Banking Committee and House Financial Services Committee offering quality stablecoin authorizing legislation, much of which is significant consensus around. And secondly, you've seen consensus between the administration and the Congress in drafting this working draft that we have on a new market framework. So we're on track. We just have to keep at it and keep at it hard, and we'll try to hit President Trump's deadline that he's given us.
Beyond feedback, is there anything that the crypto industry itself could do that would, aid this mission?
Sure, I think so. First, you're right. Feedback's important. I mean, in the digital asset space and in fintech generally, there are a lot of diverse opinions, there's no doubt. But we can't see innovation flourish in this country, and we can't have capital return to the U.S. and coders that moved offshore. We can't have them back if we don't get consensus around a good, safe, and sound dollar-backed stablecoin bill and a market framework. So contributions to that effort intellectually, and then I think educating members of Congress, particularly in the Senate, where they don't have a record of voting in this arena, compared to that of the House, where we've worked on this for 2 Congresses now. That kind of education component is also important, with a key aspect of the one I made a few minutes ago, which is we need both these bills in order to meet the definition of moving the digital asset crypto infrastructure forward. And when you combine a stablecoin bill, a market framework bill, with then better decisions by bank regulators and the SEC and the CFTC, which I believe that we will get under a Trump administration, then you're going to see that innovation and fintech opportunities flourish here in the U.S.
So 2 last questions. I know we're coming up on time here. With the caveat that obviously you can't anticipate the unknown. A year ago I spoke to your predecessor, Patrick McHenry, and we talked a little bit about kind of things that might block legislation from advancing. Is there anything you anticipate that you'll have to deal with, as we get closer to, the summer, that you, at least as far as, making sure that legislation is proceeding?
Well, I think we can't completely anticipate the floor time demands in either the House and Senate on other priorities. The Congress has a lot on its to-do list. So commanding that floor time, particularly over in the Senate, is more challenging because they have both a legislative calendar and an executive calendar for Senate confirmations of presidential appointments. So time always can work against us. But I believe we've laid the groundwork and laid a schedule out and shared that in the planning that we've done with my great colleague across the Capitol, Senator Scott. So I still believe that is doable given all the other obligations of Congress. But time and floor time is certainly a potential risk. And then were we not to make progress on some of the president's big agenda items contained in, for example, this first reconciliation bill and working on fiscal 26 appropriations, those items obviously are important and they would take precedent. But because of the good work by senators and House members, I think we're in an excellent working position to move this forward.
Great. And just to close out, any final thoughts for our audience here in Toronto?
Well, I just wish I could be there with you. So grateful for the entire venture ecosystem and the digital assets crypto ecosystem that's helped us over the last 3 years really accomplish our principal goals of having an exceptional, high-quality U.S. law that facilitates a safe and sound and effective U.S. dollar payment stablecoin, and then all the creative ideas and support we've gotten in how to really think about the right framework. I think it's reflected in this draft, and I look forward and certainly invite everybody that's assembled for your great meeting to give us feedback on both bills.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Congressman, and really appreciate it.
You bet. Great to be with you. Just wish I could be there in person.